What's up, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla SPY and the overall markets. I'm going to break down what's going on with the earnings that just came out, some big news involving some insiders and what they're doing with Tesla. What you should be watching for as time goes on. But just know that I am not a financial planner. Make sure you take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total, not to mention an 8.1% APY on invested cash. The offer ends in just about 10 days. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with the markets. Tesla's doing a great job at holding above the 340 area. It is dipping just a tiny bit in the pre-market as we had some news about some insiders selling. And we're also at this very, very tough resistance up here, which is within this range. But there is potential for Tesla to try to break out higher as we have a nice imbalance to fill above and a potential inverse head and shoulders. So the question is, what's going to affect the markets? Let's talk about this news and I'll break down more details about Tesla stock. Just know this: as far as Tesla goes, one of the Tesla shares has sold about $35 million worth of stock amidst the post-election surge. And this is very important. This is Robin Denholm. They basically cashed in, which is not a bad move. Of course, people are going to be doing this, guys. Not really a surprise. And you have to also consider the fact that the majority of shareholders, people like Kathy Wood, are still holding the large majority of their shares. So don't get the wrong idea that everyone's selling Tesla and this and that. Many mainstream articles are making it seem that way, but that's really, really far from the truth. So what's happening is, despite the fact that she sold about $35 million worth of Tesla stock, according to the report, she exercised about 112,390 stock options that were set to expire next year, which is once again completely normal during very, very big surges in the share price. Cashing in on those is once again not really an issue. And excuse me, that's part of why we did see all of these headlines coming out saying some insiders are selling Tesla, this and that. The share price came down just a tiny bit, but it's not really that big of a move. I just want to give you guys some insights about this. It's not really a big deal to me. But then don't forget, the majority of insiders, the majority of shareholders are still holding on to their positions, and Tesla's going to be completely fine. In terms of our economic data, just know that for today, there's not really much coming out. It's all very, very minor data. We just got some crude data. And besides that, I'm not really seeing anything else that's too crazy. For earnings, however, this is going to be a lot more important. After market close, we have Nvidia announcing its earnings. The market's going to be waiting for that. I think the market does have potential to push approaching this a little bit more, and then we'll see what happens after that. But I think that for now, Nvidia has a lot more potential. For other factors out there, we had other earnings such as like Neo, Target, and TJ Maxx. Just to go over them real quick, we had Target, which is down about 15% after we ended up seeing them cut their forecast, which is not the best of news. When it comes to their earnings, we had an EPS miss. We had $1.85 a share. We were expecting $2.30. That's a pretty big miss on EPS. Revenue was at about 25.67 billion. This is also below expectations. So unfortunately, we're looking at weaker margins, weaker profitability, not to mention the fact that their guidance was not that strong. Net sales were so not the best of news for Target. That's why the share price is down. It is what it is, guys. But excuse me, that's why we saw this big dump. There's also some news right over here about Neo stock. Neo stock, unfortunately, is down on a wider than expected Q3 loss, and they missed on revenue, unfortunately. So the same thing happened. The revenue is down about 2.1%. That's below expectations. Their net loss was at about $710 million, and not the best of earnings from what we were expecting. So they lost more money than expected. Their guidance was not as strong as what we were expecting, despite the fact that they have strong amounts of sales. That's part of why the share price is dumping right now. Now, for other pieces of news involving the broader markets, just know this: as far as things are going, investors are still waiting for Nvidia's earnings. That's going to be very important for what the market ends up doing. Comcast also plans to move forward with the spin-off of its cable network channels. But besides that, I didn't see anything too crazy. They had earnings, and the share price is very flat after them. But that's all I'm seeing. Like I said before, Target missed on earnings. That's why the share price is down. And besides that, I'm not seeing anything else that's too crazy, at least on the news. There are some fears involving Russia and Ukraine, but it's not affecting the market as much for the time being because the market's more patient for Nvidia's earnings. It's waiting for that first. And we'll see if anything escalates. If things do escalate too much in Ukraine and Russia, then yes, things could get more intense for the markets. But as of right now, we're not really there. So what do we see for the share price of Tesla? We have this tough resistance It's basically between this like 346 to 348 area. If we break through that, this could be an inverse head and shoulders leading to a breakout for Tesla. That's always a strong possibility. Tesla could be pushing for these higher levels, such as the 360 area, 362.5, and eventually 365. If we don't break past those resistance areas, we could be looking for a small dip. So we're at the tough resistance at 346 to 348. We just possibly get a small dip here, but then we'll see if Tesla gets bought back up earlier to start testing that. Later on during the day, we could be looking for an attempt to push on Tesla again. Look for a small dip, then an attempt to push back up to the resistance around that 348 to 350 area. And we'll see if we break that. If we do break this, we're looking for an even bigger pump, very close to that 362 area, all the way up to where this inverse head and shoulders follows through. So overall, also look for a small dip upon open for Tesla before it continues to push. We are at some tough resistance, so just be careful as Tesla's been range bound between 330 and 348 ish around that area for the last couple of days. So we'll see what happens after that. As far as other tickers like SPY go, just know that SPY has pumped quite a bit. We're actually green in the pre-market. We'll see if we hold above 590.5. If we don't hold that, we're looking for essentially 589.26. We should be looking for, there might be a small dip upon open before it tries to continue to push again. But overall, guys, I think that this will continue to pump. So look for a 590 retest and we'll see if we bounce, because when you look at, for instance, the daily time frame, we're starting to fill this gap, and I think we might just fill this gap. So if we do get a small dip, we could dip a bit before it starts to push up to fill this gap. I'm hoping we do try to do that today. As long as we're above 590, we do have the potential to push up to 593. There might be some hype involving Nvidia's earnings. ES is looking a little bit more bullish right now on the daily time frame. We're very flat, at least for this pre-markets, but overall, still more bullish in terms of our trend. So as long as we're above 59.40, we could attempt to push all the way up closer to 6,000. If we lose that, we're looking for a dip back down towards 59.20. I think this is favoring upside to get closer to about that 6,000 area. For Nvidia, we look bullish. We're approaching 148 to 150. We'll have to see how it reacts to this resistance and if we could break this or not approaching earnings. Earnings come out after market close, so get ready for that. For Bitcoin, we're breaking all-time highs at 94,000 plus. It could continue to soar for 95,000. For NQ, we're trying to push. We'll see if we break 20,800. If that breaks, 21,000 is a stronger possibility. Look for a small dip to about 20,700 before it tries to bounce again and continue to push to the higher 21,000s. QQQ looks more bullish. We could be retesting 503, maybe a little bit below that. We could get closer to about 502, and we'll see if we break out after that to 505. My presumption is that we might dip just a bit after open. There could be a small little dip coming. All the way back down to 502 or so before it tries to bounce. But then we have this big gap to fill on the daily time frame. So even if we do get a small little dip between 500 and 502, we could try to bounce and eventually start to push up to fill that gap. Maybe after Nvidia's earnings, so we'll see about that. There's another gap down here, so it could go either way. But the chart as of right now does look a little bit more bullish to me. For Apple, Apple's a little bit more bullish. We'll have to see if we break out to 230. Let me just go over a couple more. IWM is looking decent. It's pushing to about that 231 resistance. We'll have to see if we break that or not, but we're doing a good job. Look for a test of 231. We'll see if it rejects or not. I'm anticipating coin is going to be pushing higher with Bitcoin all the way up to about that 340 area, so it remains more bullish. As far as, let's double check this, Amazon goes, we pumped a bit to about 206. Now we're coming back down. We might retest, excuse me, we might retest 202. As long as we make a higher low compared to this low rate here, we could come down and just try to see a bounce afterwards. Meta is pushing very, very nice. So we'll have to see if we break past 564. If that breaks, we could be on our way closer to about that 567 area, then eventually 570. We have to break 564 first. Microsoft might dip to about 418 before it tries to bounce. So we'll see how it goes from there. And then Google, we're at resistance at 580. Look for a small dip back down towards 578 if we don't hold above it before it tries to bounce again. And then for Palantir, I know a lot of people are asking about this. Palantir is flat right now. We're range bound between 63 and about 60. It's going to likely trade sideways. Look for a dip to 61.67. We'll see if we bounce off that or not. But overall, I'm just seeing this being range bound. Anyways, that's it for my analysis of the markets. I thank you all so much for listening. So please have a great rest of your day. I'll be back for another update in a couple of hours. Until then, guys, have a great day and watch the lows I called out. Tesla is going to be fighting some tough resistance, so there could be a small dip coming before it tries to bounce again. As of right now, we're just range bound on Tesla, so give it some time to develop. And we'll see if we eventually break past the 350 resistance and start turning more bullish. Give this the time it needs, and I'll see you guys very soon. Thank you for listening, and peace out.